Good morning, everyone. This is Michele Hughes from Ageless and Timeless. Today, I have a very esteemed guest who I have actually never met in person, but I've heard so much about him from lots and lots of people that I know. And his name is Dr. Rob Silverman, and he is in Westchester, New York. So those of you on the East Coast probably have already heard about him. If you haven't, he's written a new book called Immune Reboot. And you actually wrote a book in 2016 called Inside Out Health as well. So this is your second go around, right, Dr. Rob?
It is. It's book number 2 and another Amazon bestseller. I'm really excited about it.
So congratulations. That is just so wonderful. And thank you for taking the time today to come on and join us. We have so much to talk about. And I think you know enough about Ageless and Timeless that we look for our viewers to have answers from people like you who have excelled in their profession and who have tried a lot of things, probably some that haven't worked and some that have worked miraculously. And so we want to hear today, and part of the strategy is to get to the root of things, just like a good functional medicine doctor does. So let's start with a little bit about you first. Tell us how you have gotten here. What was the journey that you've taken to become just a widely acclaimed spokesperson for functional medicine? And of course, I know you started in chiropractic. So tell us more quickly, if you can, about your journey to where you are today.
Well, without question, but thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's truly an honor. My journey is interesting. It's very similar to many people who go into chiropractic/functional medicine. It's something that's very personal. So I suffer from what they call congenital torticollis. So I was born with a shortening of an SCM muscle. So my head, unfortunately, gets laterally deviated to one side and it gets opposite side contralaterally rotated. So it was a little difficult because it's very unique and most people don't see it. I grew up in an area of New York in a borough called the Bronx. That's tough, for lack of a better term. So to put it in a nutshell, there were a lot of scrapes over comments and names being called. So I always wanted to address it, and I wanted to help other people like me not go through the same commentary. At 18 years old, I went to a fabulous medical doctor, and he offered me 3 options. Option number 1 was to do nothing. That wasn't going to happen. Option number 2, he said he could do surgery and he would provide me with a scar. That was the only thing that he would guarantee. Option number 3, he suggested to go to a chiropractor, and I did. And I have to tell you, after going to the chiropractor, my life's trajectory, my life's goal, my life's mission was changed. It was the Star-Spangled Banner. Things just popped off. And I knew at that point, I wanted to help people the way this gentleman helped me. So I went through all the prerequisites, even though I already was enrolled in a business school, and I ended up going to chiropractic school. Through my quick journey of chiropractic school, I always wanted to fix the body from the inside out. And that's when that nutrition, that's where that functional medicine matrix really came to roost. It was very new. It was in an infantile stage, but wanted to know how to fix the body from the inside out. So I mix what we call chiropractic mechanical in my left hand with functional medicine in my right hand to make what we call a health handshake. The reason writing the Immune Reboot and immunity coming to the forefront was clearly COVID. And I live in an area, you had said Westchester County. Westchester was hit early, was hit hard. 6 blocks from where I live, where I'm talking from today, right now, everybody was getting sick and there was nobody to go to. There was no guru. So I had to take it upon myself, my oath, to help people and do no harm, but to help people to start learning all about immunity. And now I've added immunity into my armamentarium and really realized that immunity may be the backbone to everybody's overall health. And also in addition to people's aging, we're talking about longevity so much now, but there is no longevity without a strong immune system.
Oh, I love that story, Dr. Rob. And, Sometimes when we look at our lives, we realize that from adversity comes opportunity, and actually, that's the Chinese, their philosophy that out of adversity comes opportunity, and that's what you obviously did was something that was personal and caused you a lot of introspection and obviously some proactivity, and good for you that you searched for answers because that's what a lot of people would just give up, and you didn't. You were a fighter and tenacious about finding those answers, and that's what I'm sure you're trying to imbue in your patients as well. So who inspired you the most? Was it that medical doctor, or was there someone else along the way?
Well, without question, the medical doctor was an inspiration in that he was eclectic. I mean, 40 years ago, saying things that he said. And the one thing that he embedded in my mind was the patient came first. And everybody, when you go to the doctor, make sure, and I'm sure all of the doctors you go to, that the patient comes first. But, I've had a few mentors along the way, a few in the chiropractic and the medical fields who have really set a standard. Like you said, energy, enthusiasm to help other people, craving for knowledge. A good friend of mine who came from humble beginnings like I did, who got himself to Oxford, is without question an emulous for me also. So I look to people who achieve and realize that I have the greatest job in the world in that I'm able to help people every day. And that's my goal. And that enables me to get up in the morning and stay up late at night.
So what would you say, or who would you say has been your greatest achievement in terms of a patient and a recovery?
There's so many stories, and probably I'm always going to say the one tomorrow is going to be my better day, but I can remember one real clearly. Just yesterday, somebody came in, and unfortunately for her, she's had pain in her abdomen for 20 years through IBS and things like that, and just able to make some changes, tell her to stop eating the things that she was eating, actually apply a laser therapy to her, and her giving a call at night and saying, she feels as though her life has changed because one, she feels better, but she feels simpatico with the doctor. So for me, that was just one of a string. I'd like to say it's every day. It goes from the carpal tunnel to the weight loss to the immune health. So there isn't the one. For me, it's an everyday thing because it's just exciting to work and help people daily.
Do you have a particular style, a patient, let's say a bedside manner type? Do you have a style that you would describe as how you are able to have a patient believe in you and get compliance to change habits? Because the older people get, the harder it is for them to change their ways. So that's a huge challenge for a medical practitioner like yourself. How do you explain that? How are you successful at doing that?
I hear you. I mean, as I age, sometimes we get a little stuck in our ways. I concur with you. So what I tell everybody is I'm transparent, I'm to the point, but this is a spot where you can trust somebody. I think the biggest problem that people have, I think our population doesn't know with all the noise out there, is who and what do you trust? It's hard. See, if you want to look at a particular topic, you'd have 3 TV programs and 18 different blogs. Everybody would say different. I kind of tell everybody this is a spot where you can trust a person. I'm going to give it to you in an honest and appropriate and a professional manner.
Mm-hmm. And are you concierge approach, so you don't have to worry about 15 minutes in a Medicare claim?
Yeah, when we're concierge, without question, our goal is to help the patient. It's not to be locked in time. We're very outcome, and we don't look at the clock. We do try and have everybody come on time. Some people like to come like 3 hours late or tomorrow. But that being said, we're patient-centric.
European Wellness, founded by the iconic and widely published Professor Dr. Michael Chan, is the world leader in stem cell and peptide therapy, with 26 medical and aesthetic spa locations primarily in Europe and Asia. Their website, www.europeanwellness.com, details the wide range of wellness products that can be ordered using the Ageless code for a 10% discount. They will also offer our viewers discounts on medical and cosmetic services and products if they choose to visit the clinics. I have firsthand experience using their wide range of science-based stem cell and peptide products and am now a loyal customer. Go to their website, www.europeanwellness.com, for more information about this exciting company. What would you say is inspiring you the most right now in your practice?
You know, the need, I mean, 75% of Americans are overweight or obese. Everybody's suffering from failing health. Just today, there was another drug being discussed that helps with type 2 diabetes that they're purporting for weight loss that actually has really heinous outcomes. The moment you stop it, you gain all the weight back and you lose 40% of your muscle mass. So if you're worried about longevity or anti-aging, the loss of muscle mass is the first sign of aging. And when you look at the amount of money it is per month, $1,700, with 70 to 75% of Americans needing it, I mean, that is not the type of direction. So what spurs me on every day is the ability to talk about lifestyle changes with everybody, because that's where we should be. Eating, thinking, drinking better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was looking at your, well, obviously I told you I read your book and I read it cover to cover, and I told you how I felt about it. I can tell everybody out there that this new book, Immune Reboot, which it's the only one I've read. I didn't read your first book. I didn't know you, so I probably should go back and do that. But I can tell everyone of my viewers that this is a book you must read. Dr. Silverman has a knack, or has a talent for taking the complicated and what could be very medical. I mean, there's a lot of terminology and so just a lot of things that we the lay people may not always understand. However, he has a knack, and it's a gift, really, Dr. Silverman, to be able to explain things in a way that is more understandable. Still complicated, because let's face it, the immune system and the body as a whole is a miracle. And you take it and you dissect it in a way that makes it so that we understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so I just want to congratulate you for being able to, that really truly is a gift, because a lot of doctors talk in doctor speak, and they lose their patients because the patients don't understand. But you want to make the patient understand why, what, how, when, where, right? What is the purpose of being here? Why are we going to make these changes? So what would you say is the greatest challenge today after this pandemic to our health, to our overall health?
Great question. It would really appear to be long COVID or post-COVID. Long COVID, unfortunately, has affected so many people in America and worldwide. Americans seem to be more susceptible because we had so many preconditions. Again, we're heavy, our blood sugar is too high. But a thing that we don't look at is not only the health and the production aspect of long COVID, but the financial strain. Long COVID has cost $3.7 trillion to the U.S. healthcare services and growing, which is equivalent to the 2007 and 2009 recession. So when you speak to that, you realize not only do we have an increasing healthcare cost, we also have a decrease in production. And the problem is, when you go on the TV, thank God for podcasts like this, when you go on the TV, everybody's talking about the pill or the drug or the one button. And it's been 3 years since we've really accepted COVID as real. And in 3 years, I still don't hear anybody talk about getting into shape, vitamin D levels, what's your blood sugar. So, when patients come in, I ask them what their vitamin D level is, what's their blood sugar, what's their body fat, what's their hemoglobin A1C, and they don't even know. So the biggest challenge is to really get patients to understand that lifestyle is key and health is, without question, wealth.
Yeah, and your food is your medicine. So we can jump to the nutrition part in a moment, because I know that's been a big factor in your practice and how you've approached your own personal life, and then of course by osmosis, an example as a great mentor teaching your patients. So yeah, it would seem to me, as I look back on the last 3 years, and we're old enough now that we have perspective. And we see, there have been other challenges in our lives that I have never in my life seen a challenge that has been this damaging and divisive to our country. I mean, I don't want to get into politicization here, but I mean, I'll say the nasty word, the vaccine. Just that divisiveness amongst friends, amongst families. I've never seen that. I mean, I took all the shots when I was a kid. I never questioned it. But why now? Should we be at this point in our lives having to debate something that has just divided us as a country? So that's just a little, side note, but let's talk a little bit about how we can basically heal what has been devastating to our country. So let's talk about the protocol. So in your book, you go through a description of the immune system, and I think that was your first chapter. And there's a lot of words in there, the neutrophils, the basophils, the macrophages, the cytokine storm, all of that. These are all very important for us to understand as underscoring. But let's talk about action. So if you were giving somebody an action plan and you were trying to do it in the simplest way so that you don't lose the patient who isn't having an easy time, what is the way that you go about teaching and getting a change of behavior from the people that have, like we said before, have had these habits for, like this woman, for 20 years? And she's been treated probably allopathically with pharmaceutical drugs. So what would you say, if you could just give us a quick and dirty on the approach that you take, that's an integrated approach, with nutrition, of course, being one of the basis of the protocol. So
well, you said it.
Yeah.
You said it. Food is medicine. Let medicine be your food. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, if you will, 2,500 years ago, he said that. Something that I tell everybody pertaining to COVID and pathogens: you can't control the virus, but you can control the host. Yeah. You want to make yourself, your friends, your family, your patients, if you will, an inhospitable host, because you want to make your immune system as strong as you possibly can. So to control your host, there's some basic things that you should adhere to. Number one, avoid certain foods. Those foods would fall into a couple of acronyms I have. Number one, GPS. No gluten, no processed food, and no added sugar. The average American consumes 160 pounds of sugar per year. Sugar works in the reward center of your brain. It's the most over-the-counter, overused drug today, and it works with the reward center. It is extremely deleterious to your overall health. Processed food, again, 63% of our caloric intake come from processed food. We should start eating whole food. And gluten means glue in Latin, sticks to your intestinal tract. It's a without question a no bueno. DNA, that's another acronym I use. No dairy. Yes, I know the Midwest hates me when I say that. No nicotine, and no artificial sweeteners. In addition to that, I would follow what I like to refer to as an anti-inflammatory diet. Foods that you want to keep that are lower on the glycemic index. You really want to avoid as many sugars as you can. You also don't want to deep fry any food. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, you want to avoid vegetable oils. There are no vegetables in vegetable oils. They're seed oils. They're detrimental to your overall health. So when I go out to eat with my wife and she likes to dine out, she's also very health conscious. We tell everybody in the restaurant we are allergic to vegetable oils. We would prefer something like ghee, olive oil, or avocado oil. Again, in choosing foods, you want to control your glycemic index, your glycemic load. You want to avoid and detect food sensitivities. There's a difference between food allergies and food sensitivities. Food allergies, you'll know because when you eat it, you'll swell. Have you ever been on a plane and somebody said they have a peanut allergy and you can't even open up a peanut? That's obviously an allergy, and that's what we call an IgE, immune-mediated response. It's anaphylactic. Food sensitivities are vastly different. Most people, most doctors can't ascertain food sensitivities without testing because it's a 72-hour lag from ingestion to symptomology coming out. So therefore, every patient that walks in my office, I test them for food sensitivities. Some other things to consider would be environmental overloads. If you happen to live near a highway, you'll have more gas. By the way, the number one spot where you will get toxins is in your mattress. So without question, consider a flame retardant mattress. To continue with the theme about eating healthy, Jack LaLanne, believe it or not, was a chiropractor, once said, if man makes it, I won't eat it. So stick to organic foods. Consider wild smash fish, salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herring. You want a plant-forward diet. Consider good quality fruits and obviously all the vegetables from the rainbow of food. Grass-fed meats, high fiber, nuts and seeds, your chicken soup, your bone broth. Use herbs like ginger and turmeric. Make sure you get an appropriate fluid intake. And of course, if you're going to have coffee, and I am a big Java fan, make sure your coffee and tea are without question organic. Lifestyle hacks. Now, you and I have talked about this before. Many people who are into anti-aging and looking good at 20 to 120 consider themselves or consider what I would like to refer to as an intermittent fast or time restrictive eating type of diet. Now, it's critical to understand that intermittent fasting, time restrictive eating, we use synonymously, but basically it means to fast and feed in the same day. So you want to fast during the day. You want to fast 14 to 16 hours. If you sleep 8 hours and you don't eat for 3 hours before you go to sleep, you're already at 11 hours. You wake up and you don't eat right away, you're at 14 hours. You want to intermittent fast because it provides your body with its own natural cleansing process called autophagy. Autophagy is the breakdown of old cells and make new cells. So you're able to make new mitochondria cells, new immune cells to give yourself immune rejuvenation, new collagen cells. So intermittent fasting is a great lifestyle hack. Get some sleep. Let's not forget exercise, 30-minute exercise minimum of day. Now, in addition to that, there's a study that just showed 11 minutes is enough to actually get a health benefit of exercise. As you told everybody, I'm a chiropractor. I do believe chiropractic care is a backbone of health. In addition to that, if you're going to use any kind of modalities, low-level laser therapy, everybody take a deep breath and chill out. Modify your stress. And when you wake up, I ask a lot of patients and they come in my office, what have you done for your immune system lately? So what have you done today to help your immune system, since your immune system is the system of longevity? And make sure, lastly, you'll always consider muscle mass. Muscle mass is your currency of longevity and anti-aging.
Mm-hmm. This morning, I received an email from Dr. Sears and Al Sears in Florida, and he was touting his so-called new technology, which I've had for about 20 years. It's the power plate, which is, the vibrational. And I don't know why I went to a show, an athletic show here in San Francisco at Moscone years ago, and I saw this German machine, and it was so fascinating, and I didn't have any reason to do it, but I bought the first one that they sold in the San Francisco Bay Area. So mine, I have the original one. It's a big one. And you know what? I mean, I always thought it was for old people. And so I didn't always embrace it. But now I'm learning, no, it's not. It's for everybody. And basically what it's doing is it's accelerating the vibrations into the mitochondria, into the ATP of the mitochondria, so that you get far more efficiency. And he was touting it for Parkinson's because apparently with the nervous system getting circulation. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. But now you brought up low-level laser therapy. I don't think too many people know that. And when I saw that in your book, I thought, okay, I got to ask Dr. Rob, what is it that, because we've done lasers before for other things, but how does it work with what your practice is proposing to accomplish?
Well, low-level laser is synonymous with non-thermal laser therapy. I do not like hot lasers. I like what we call a cold laser, or I should say non-thermal laser that doesn't generate heat. So in that, I use it for a myriad of different things. I found it to ameliorate a multitude of different kind of conditions, some of which deal with musculoskeletal injuries, many of which brain injuries, gut injuries, and as I signified in my book, the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is a critical element, and it does so because it sends photons into the area, and that's why there's no heat. The photons are absorbed, and we're increasing in the mitochondria, in the cells of the body, the electromagnetic transfer of energy. So these are, without question, breakthroughs in technology. I use them every day in my chiropractic practice, in my functional medicine practice, and also for a body contour. So laser for me is the best modality, most versatile, effective modality of the 21st century.
And which laser do you recommend?
I use the Zirconia laser, and full disclosure, I do lecture for them. I've actually done 2 FDA clearances for them, and I do so because I really believe in the product, and I love being involved in research. There's 2 types of research, and everybody should do both. There's the research that's documented, the FDA kind, the kind in the lab, if you will, and then there's empirical research. And we should give credence to both. But when you have a laser and a laser company that allows you to do both and puts the 2 of them together, that's really the secret sauce to effectiveness.
Yeah, it always bothers me when they say, oh, this study and that study, but they don't tell you that study was commissioned by the very company that is going to benefit by the results. So it's totally biased. So whenever you look for, scientific backing for a product or a service, you need to do what you just said, which is to look for the objective, neutral source of the study and the research. Correct? I think that's what you're trying to say. That makes
what I'm saying is, unfortunately, you want to do the studies. You want to have the research, but you also want to have the practitioner who did the research practice in a setting that's clinical, so does the research really make sense in a practical setting? And that's a critical element. There's points in martial arts, and then there's fighting, and there's forms. So you want to be able to mix all 3 together to be the most complete person or the most complete martial artist.
So today's world, there's so much discussion about the microbiome, gut-brain axis, and of course, this is all very important in your practice. So, would you talk for a moment about how you integrate the gut-brain axis in your practice to heal your patients?
I'd be happy to. I believe the gut is the epicenter of your health. 80% of your immune cells, ladies and gentlemen, are in your gut. It's where your macro, your foods, and your micro, your vitamins and minerals are absorbed. What have you done for your guts lately? Do you have the guts to be healthy? Now, what's interesting about the gut is it is a key communicator with virtually all your other systems. Now, especially what you highlighted was the gut to brain axis, which is bidirectional. Whatever you do to your gut, you do to your brain. Whatever you do to your brain, you do to your gut. And it's bidirectional, or a key component of its bidirectionality is the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is cranial nerve number 10. It goes from the medulla oblongata, the bottom of the brainstem, down through the transverse colon. It essentially senses what goes on inside the gut and communicates between the gut and the brain. So everybody take a second. So if you have an upset stomach, you're not going to think well. If you've hit your head, whether it's a minor concussion or a major concussion or whatever type of traumatic brain injury, whatever you've done to your brain, it's going to communicate with your gut. We've got to be able to treat and understand that the gut to brain axis is, for me, the superhighway to health, as opposed to the superhighway to, if you will, an AC/DC song, to hell. So everybody has to think about what they're doing for their gut lining every day, whether it's being less stress-free, exercise, foods, and that's why we talked about those foods before: gluten, processed food, sugar, dairy, nicotine, and artificial sweeteners, all real ruinous to overall gut health. Now, what's interesting about the gut, you use the term microbiome. The microbiome is everything that's going on inside your gut. So inside your gut, you have these inhabitants. The bulk of the inhabitants are bacteria. You actually have fungi, you have viruses, and you have some parasites. So your microbiome is sort of like your neighborhood. It's your neighborhood of health. The bulk of your microbiome, or what I like to refer to as the idea of taking up the most real estate, is something called commensal bacteria. They're sort of like the middle class. And on the left side, if you will, is the symbiotic. You feed those probiotics and they populate. They're the rich kids. And on the right side is the parasitic kids. You don't want too much of them. They're the bad kids because it kind of ruins the neighborhood, but you still need some because your immune system communicates with your gut and needs to be sharp, and it will only function well by everyday testing to see if you have parasitic. The takeaway to your gut ecosystem is that you need about 85% good bacteria or more not to have something called dysbiosis. So it's not a 51-49 and you win and you're president. It's 85 or more. So that really breeds the idea of, you know what? I don't want to have that Domino's pizza and Ben and Jerry's on my cheat day. I really need to watch what I eat regularly. And if I want something, that's a little off the beaten track, I can have it, but I shouldn't have it all the time or put it all in one day. That's not going to work for good overall gut health, because gut health, again, is the epicenter of your health.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody is depressed, they come into your office and they say, I'm depressed. I mean, I know it, I mean, I don't, maybe clinically, I don't have all the measurements, but do you then immediately go to the gut to find the solutions for their depression?
Interesting you asked that. A growing conversation in gut health is something we've all heard of: probiotics to give life, good bacteria. There's now something called psychobiotics, bacteria that actually affects the mind, and the mind for depression, anxiety, and mood. So that is the number one growing idea within the gut as far as psychobiotics and probiotics. Interestingly enough, we talked before about food sensitivities. The removal of food sensitivities decreased a myriad of symptomatologies. The number one symptomatology from a food sensitivity was anxiety, mood, and depression. The second one is what everybody would think is gas and bloating and brain fog. So when you talk about depression, a great starting point would be the gut and the gut ecosystem and what's going on inside.
And one thing we haven't really touched on is environmental. So talk to us for a moment about what the influence of environmental toxins have on, and what we can do about it.
There's just an article about 2 months ago, sorry about that, with environmental toxins. And it showed how pesticides and environmental toxins could damage the gut and lead you down that slippery slope towards what we refer to as leaky gut. Your gut is a screen door. So everybody knows what a screen door is. A screen door lets air in and out, but it stops flies and other things from walking in and out. When that screen door has a hole, or it's too porous, like your gut, what happens is certain things pass the gut that shouldn't pass the gut and stimulate reactions in your blood system, leading you to localized inflammation, systemic inflammation, and possibly autoimmunity. So these toxins, or environmental toxins and pesticides, are notorious for causing what we would like to refer to as a leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability.
Mm-hmm. What scares me is that glyphosate, which is Roundup, has become the most commonly used pesticide in this country, and yet it's banned in most of Europe, I think, and other countries. So why is it the U.S. is not irresponsible, it seems, to the obvious facts of deteriorating health due to a product that should be banned? Why isn't that happening? What can we do to stop that?
You just brought up a nexus of failing health. Glyphosate, which is in Roundup, which Roundup has been called by the World Health Organization as a cancer-causing ingredient. Glyphosate, a common ingredient in Roundup. The reason glyphosate is used is to help as an antibiotic in the soil. 93% of our soils are unable at this point to be organic. So glyphosate, as this has increased, it's the number one herbicide in America today. As the use of glyphosate has increased, so has the increase of gut issues, irritable bowel, and celiac disease, which is allergies to wheat. So basically, the glyphosate has ruined our wheat, and that's why we talk about waiting or avoiding gluten at virtual all costs. So you talked a little bit before about what the problem is. I don't know. I have yet to hear and again, I don't want to get into this rabbit hole, but I have yet to hear a political person, a political party talk about health, because health starts with our ability to consume good quality foods. And that has become really hard because of the overuse of glyphosate in our soil.
I know. So then the obvious question is, why continue something that is so deleterious to our health? And we have the United States has one of the worst healthcare records for a major country. Why are we so low? And that this could be one answer, is that we don't ban these things that we know that are proven, and other countries are way ahead of us that are much less capitalized than we are. Why do we not do these things that are good for us? I'm asking you a kind of an unfair question, because obviously I just wanted to hear what you thought about it.
I don't have a good answer for that. It's somewhat, you asked me it, and we probably both agree it's rhetorical. The problem is, that is the problem. Why? And how do we change it? And what do we do within that dynamic? And how do I guide my patients? So it really leaves us with farm to fork or organic type foods that haven't been exposed to glyphosate, pesticides, and the like. If you're never sure if something's been sprayed, just leave it out. So for instance, if you were to take 2 pieces of lettuce and leave it on your kitchen counter, the organic one will probably start to rot in 3 days outside the refrigerator. The other one will take 3 weeks to rot. So I wanted to do a talk. I do a lot of social media. We do podcasts and everything. And in that talk, I asked some of my staff members if they'd be so kind to bring non-organic stuff, anything they may have in their shelves. So they brought breads and stuff like that. And I really forgot to put it in the refrigerator. Never got to that social media short and reel. About 2 to 3 weeks later, I looked at it, and it was unchanged. Now, how can that be? If you leave anything out, maybe other than overnight, because you're letting it simmer down in temperature, it would be damaged. And that says it all, because it's there to lay on the shelf. If you can buy something that's on the shelf for a period of time, don't eat it. I'll say it again. Jacqueline once said, if man makes it, I won't eat it. Michael Pollan says, if it comes from a plant, it's good for me. If it's made in the plant, don't eat it.
That's a good one. I like that. Well, let's talk for a moment about supplements. Obviously, supplements are very confusing to people. I mean, I know I even chatted with you a little bit about that when we first met. But as the consumer, just to give you that perspective, I'm sure you hear it all the time from your patients. It's overwhelming. It really is, to know what is it that's best for me, and how do I determine that what's best for me without some scientific testing. And then once I do know what's best for me, how do I then pick amongst all the choices out there? And for example, lately, and this is just a little segue, but lately I've stopped taking anything that has magnesium stearate. Decided, look, Michele, you take so many supplements. Why are you putting these fillers into your liver and making the liver work that much harder? And there are options out there without those fillers that other companies spend a little more money, and they make the effort to sell it to you without that less expensive filler. So I don't know how you feel about that, but I'd love your opinion. But anyway, let's just back up a little bit. That was just a sidetrack that we can address if you want.
Sure, let's go for it. Let's dive into the pool.
Okay,
number one, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of junk out there, and there's a lot of good quality. How do you know? Yeah. Well, number one, I believe that you have to rely on a functional medicine practitioner because I spend a lot of time finding out from different companies where they get the ingredients. What do they use if they use an emulsifier? What's in it? Where do they get those ingredients from? Is the dosage correct? Or what is the proper dosage? And the big thing is, you just said magnesium. Forget the magnesium stearate. That's no good. You would want to use magnesium bisglycinate if you want more magnesium, because bisglycinate is attached to an amino acid, and therefore when you can consume the needed amount of magnesium, and you won't have any gastrointestinal upset. If you took magnesium citrate, you use that if you were constipated, and magnesium L-threonate is great for the brain. 9 to 14 years decrease in aging, MIT 2016 study. Covering that, then you would want me or a doc to individualize and personalize the vitamin needs for you. And how do you do that? Well, you do that by testing and not guessing. There's blood tests to determine your levels, your vitamin and mineral levels. Not only your vitamin and mineral levels in your blood, but what's in your cells. So now when you get this very objective findings, you can pinpoint what that individual needs. And I think that's where it is. I had patients come in with 40 or 50 bottles because they read a blog or they saw some social media reel, and it's not the right formula. It's like you said, it's laced with things that they shouldn't be taking, and they're either over or underdosing, and some of them are taking things that don't really cross genders. So again, the starting point is find somebody you trust and hope that individual has put their time and due diligence into ascertaining the quality of the ingredients. I always look for third-party certified company, FDAs. Does not pertain to vitamin supplement companies, and also someone who's going to administer you well. A great example, vitamin D. Everybody should take their vitamin D levels. Everybody should take their total vitamin D level, and you should be taking, if you need vitamin D, D3. D2 is an option, but DT is plant, D2 is plant, D3 is vertebra. You want to take D3 with K2. I cannot tell you how many of my patients, new patients, have walked in and taken D3 without K2.
They don't know.
They don't know.
Haven't been informed of the why you need the K2 as a carrier of the D3, and I always, they should come as, I mean, if you buy them separately, that's fine, but they do sell them as a combo too, as long as the dosage is correct. But
there you go, dosage, combo. And the reason you take it as the carrier was a great example. You're taking the D3 because it carries, it facilitates the movement of calcium into the bones. Without K2, the D takes the calcium to the soft tissue and you plaque. So here we have hormone D, vitamin D, which is a virtuoso of sorts because it has a swath of health promoting properties. And what's happening? You're not taking it with the K2 and it's ruinous to your overall health. Great point.
Yeah. Can we, without you feeling violated here, confidentiality, can you tell us a couple of supplement companies that we can rely on?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. I know you said you want your full transparency if you happen to be representing them, but just give us some ideas of where to go to look, at least to start our journey for the right supplement program.
Without question. So I'll give a few of the bigger ones. Number one would be Nutridyne. Number two would be Healthgevity. Number three would be Orthomolecular. In addition to that, if you wanted one fell swoop, you could look at something called a full script. And most of these products you would need to get through a practitioner because they're two practitioner. The two consumers have some good products and some good companies, but the ones to the practitioner are better because the practitioners are really going to spend a little bit more time investigating the formula, the quality of the ingredients, and if they're using binders, and if they are, what are those binders?
So, okay, so now that we know some companies, now give us the protocol. What are the most essential, even if you have never been tested, just about everybody needs these basics. So what would you say would be that the list of those basics?
Well, for the basics, we'll just talk basic health and then we'll do some aging stuff because I think that people like that longevity aging stuff. Number one, the basic would be a good multivitamin, multimineral, an omega-3 fatty acid.
Right.
vitamin D3 with K2, a
Right.
probiotic, and a quality fruits and greens drink. Now, if you want to flip it and you want to talk a little bit about anti-aging, Healthgevity has a panacea of new formulas that are just truly exciting. They have a product called Longevity that has peptides in it that really helps people hold on to their muscle mass. And again, muscle mass is the currency of anti-aging. In addition to that, they've got telomere specific type of products. And lastly, maybe most excitingly, they've got a product to help go along with the autophagy and intermittent fasting. And the new nutrient, the sexy nutrients are BPC 157 and spermidine.
Yeah, I take BPC 157. I've taken it as an injectable. I also tried it as a capsule, but what would you say is the more efficacious, the injection or the capsule?
I'm not sure if we can still get the injection, but I do know we can get them in a capsule form. And when they're mixed with something called PEA, which is part of the cannabinoid system, you've really got a great synergistic nutrient formula.
Right. And for those who don't know what it is, why don't you tell us what it does?
A BPC 157. BPC 157 does a ton of different properties. It helps knit up different wounds. It helps knit up injuries in the musculoskeletal. It's really good for long COVID. It's shown to help with leaky gut. So it's a staple for overall recovery from any kind of injury or insight to the body.
Yeah. And I took it because I'd had a biking accident where I broke my tibia and fibula, and this was the way to heal more quickly. And the surgeon told me he's never seen healing like mine. He said, 1 month after the surgery, he couldn't even find the fractures on the x-rays. So it does work. And but I like you said, it has all these other attributes in addition. So you're getting the benefits of. I think peptides is something that are going to, take the people that are in the know, like you, are becoming far more positive and embracing the idea of peptides. I think that's kind of the new kid on the block, like you said about the BPC. So there are other peptides. I take thymosin, which is, the thymus, obviously, that's anti-aging. And so I don't take it anymore, but AOD, which is the weight management. And, what woman doesn't want to lose 5 pounds, right? So, and muscle mass, it helps with muscle mass. So those are just a few that I found. The other one is CPC. That one is that for your adrenals? I can't remember now, but
yes.
But anyway, so those are some just hints for those of you watching that are wanting to get into kind of the new kid on the block, as Dr. Rob said, BPC. A lot of people have never heard of that, and be very effective for what we both described. Yep. So before we run out of time, I just want to ask a couple more very important questions. Why are there so many terms? Like functional medicine is a term, complementary medicine, alternative medicine, holistic medicine. I mean, it gets confusing to know how to discern amongst and between these. So just take functional for an example, because you're an expert in functional medicine, and I noticed that the father of functional medicine, Jeffrey Bland, wrote the foreword of your book. That's pretty impressive. Actually, my doctor in LA studied with him. She's been a guest on my podcast too, if you ever want to watch her show. But her name is Dr. Nina Sashdev, and she studied with him. I think, isn't he from Washington State?
He is from the state of Washington, Gig Harbor. That is correct. And Dr. Bland is the father of functional medicine, and I am very fortunate to have him to write a foreword. It was a very touching moment where he accepted that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so obviously he saw value he's a pretty busy guy and very discriminating. So he obviously saw value in your book, and that's a great compliment to you. What would you say is so how do you define functional medicine? And then I want to sure we get that covered before we go.
Yeah, functional medicine is an interesting term, and functional medicine basically means we don't look at symptoms. We try to look at systems, but the ultimate goal of functional medicine is to get to root cause resolution. So we don't want to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. We are going to put our thinking hats on, going through the systems interaction to find out why you have that particular problem. And it's the crux of what we do. And it does incorporate integrative medicine because it takes a multitude of different practitioners really to get to it. And it looks holistic. It looks at the body from the inside out. So it's a term that really cascades and intertwines multiple terms.
Yes, and so the difference of allopathic, which is the traditional Western medicine, is that what I understand is that the allopathic medical doctor will look at a symptom and try to give you a pharmaceutical drug, whereas a functional medicine doctor will look at the root cause, look for the root cause, and will try to find non-invasive and non-chemical approaches to healing. Is that fair to sum it up that way?
That is essentially the big difference. Yeah, they're looking at the symptoms, and that's part of the problem. You can pull the battery or pull the plug out of the fire alarm, but that doesn't mean you're affecting the fire. And functional medicine is, where's the fire? Don't look at the smoke, look at the fire.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Well, Dr. Rob, you've been wonderful, and I just appreciate your time. I see that you have a podcast, so I'm going to start watching your podcast now because I've learned so much from just our brief interactions over the last few weeks. And I do want to thank Rob Fletcher from Muscle and Fitness. Good old Rob, and he's an amazing connector, isn't he? That's why he's the head of business development, right?
Yeah, he's a great guy. He does a great job, and I'm happy he can connect us. And I'm going to do a shameless plug. Here it is, Immune Reboot, everybody. I beat you to it, Michele. So Amazon best-selling book.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you remembered to do that because I only have your PDF, and I was wondering, when you were on a trip, if you remember, to Hawaii.
I was in Hawaii lecturing, so here you go. It's in tomorrow's mail. I promise you. I'm walking it over myself to the post office. Anybody else who wants it, you can go to immunereboot.com. It's on Amazon, or come see me on drrobertsilverman.com, and those are my handles on social media. Please like, follow. We're always sharing information. Help us with our health mission. Help Michele and I with our health mission.
Right. Well, I think we should, not that I want to give us a gold star, but I do think that people like us are really trying very diligently and sincerely to affect lives in a positive way. And, we don't do this because it's going to make us a zillionaire. We do this because we're very, very dedicated to wanting to change the world in a very healthy and helpful way. And that's why ageless and timeless means you don't want to live your life for a long, ageless and timeless time unless you're living it with quality. And so these are some of the ways that we look to help people to adopt lifestyle changes. And as you say, hacks. The new expression today is
hacks.
Anyone listening today, as I mentioned last time, by the way, I forgot to say one more thing. James White, I want to give him a little plug. He was a guest on my podcast, the CEO of KBMO, which I know you and I met through him as well. Mm-hmm. He is one of the greatest, his company, KBMO Diagnostics, is a company that you use for your food sensitivity and gut barrier testing, correct?
I use it every day in all my patients, and I do reference it. I don't use the name because I try to not use any names in my book. And I would recommend everybody getting a leaky gut panel test and or including a food sensitivities test.
Right. I think that's kind of the baseline to start your program anyway, right? Is to so they can go to their practitioner and request KBMO because they only deal with practitioners, is what I understand.
Correct.
So people should know them, but they are on my podcast. And so Dr. James White did offer people to contact one of his big nutrition ladies that has been with the company many years and to get a free consultation. I was just wondering, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anything that you would like to incentivize our viewers with that would we encourage them to come and talk to you?
Sure.
You know,
The first person that reaches out to you that says they watched it and they were interested, I will give a free 30-minute immune consultation. And I'm offering up also a free book for somebody who asks for it from you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, well, I will let you know. So if anyone wants to contact me, agelessandtimeless.com is the best way, and you'll see my website there. And yeah, for sure, that's a wonderful gift. So whoever number one is, let's get going, get yourself moving so you get to speak with Dr. Rob Silverman. All right. Well, if you liked what you heard today, please hit the subscribe button and or the like button, and so you know when we're doing more podcasts. We're trying to do 2 a month now. We certainly never seem to be at a loss for wonderful guests like Dr. Silverman. So thank you, Rob, Dr. Rob, and we wish you all the best in your journey. And thank you again for sharing your insights with us today.
Thanks for your time. And remember, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live.
Thank you. I totally get that. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.